Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah wa kafa wa salamun ala ibadihi alladhina istafa amma ba'd. فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون صدق الله العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك لمن الشاهدين والشاكرين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Alhamdulillah, my beloved brothers and elders, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us this beautiful deen. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us so many different bounties and so many different ni'mah. And among all the great bounties of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is this great bounty and ni'mah of Iman. And when we look in the Quran, there are many ayats and verses in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us over and over again. There are many surahs that we hear over and over in the Quran, in our salat, or we read in our salat, or even in the khutbah. We should think and ponder over what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to tell us. Many a times we hear surahs from the Quran, the Imam Sahib is reading, or we recite in our own self, or we hear on the khutbah, over and over and over again, every salat, every Friday. So sometimes a thought should come to our mind that what I'm hearing, I should try to understand it as well. What I'm saying, I also should try to understand it as well. Yeah. Not just we hear and we recite, but we don't even know what we are reading or what we are listening to. Yeah. As like an example, if a few people in a group from different countries, they're always meeting and gathering, and they are from different countries, different languages, example. And sometimes we hear one brother talking to other brother in a different language, and they're repeating those words very often. But because we don't understand that language, automatically we will ask him that, what we tell him all the time in that language. Because we want to understand what he's saying to him. We hear it over and over again, but we won't let him go. We'll ask him what is the meaning of that. The same way, the verses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Quran itself, we should try to understand it. The basic surahs. And the verse, the ayat are recited in the beginning. This is one of those verses where we hear over and over again in the khutbah on the Friday. Throughout our whole life we are hearing this verse, but do we ever ponder and think that what is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying in this verse? Inna Allah ya'muru bil 'adl. The first thing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding us and telling us is Inna Allah ya'muru bil 'adl. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here is commanding justice. Al-'adl, insaf. And the word 'adl and insaf, there are many different categories and many different stages that a person, if you understand the different categories and different things what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to tell us. Normally we would understand 'adl and insaf as if we want to fight a case or somebody done something to us on our rights, then we want to do 'adl, we want to do insaf and justice. But there are many different meanings to this, or categories, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning in this verse, Inna Allah ya'muru bil 'adl. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is commanding justice. The first category and the first point is that how we do justice with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the first category. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, before we do justice to our fellow human being, to our families, to our children, to our wives, etc., is justice with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And how do we do justice with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Is that we fulfill all the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands us to do and prevent us from doing, we follow all His commands. That is justice with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When a person is able to do justice with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then automatically he will be able to do justice with insan and human being. We will be able to do justice with our children, with our wives, with our employees, etc. If we are not able to do justice with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, fulfill all His commands, then we will not be able to do justice with fellow human beings. That's the first category and the first point that our ulama mentioned that we have to do is fulfill the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in every way. That whatever is Allah's command, time for salat, fulfill the command of salat, and all the other commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The other category of justice the ulama mentioned is that we do justice amongst one another. Many a times it happens that a person, when it comes to justice and insaf, he looks at the individual and according to that, justice gets done. And many a times it happens that this person is my rishtadar, he's my family, he's my close relative, he's my close friend, etc. And if it so happen that there is something needs to be decided, justice needs to be done, then because he is my close relative, my close family, then we sort of support him even though he is at the wrong. And injustice happen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in many verses in the Quran, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا قُومُوا قَوَّامِينَ بِالْقِسْطِ شُهَدَاءَ لِلَّهِ وَلَوْ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَوِ الْوَالِدَيْنِ وَالْأَقْرَبِينَ إِنْ يَكُنْ غَنِيًّا أَوْ فَقِيرًا فَاللَّهُ أَوْلَىٰ بِهِمْ. That stands for justice in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with a witness. Even though it can be against yourself, even though your close relatives, even though that person could be poor or rich, it doesn't matter. But when the matter of justice comes, we put the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in front. وَإِذَا قُلْتُمْ فَاعْدِلُوا وَلَوْ كَانَ ذَا قُرْبَى. That when you're saying something, then or deciding some matter, then decide it with justice. Even though it's our close relatives. Another verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَإِذَا حَكَمْتُمْ بَيْنَ النَّاسِ أَن تَحْكُمُوا بِالْعَدْلِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُقْسِطِينَ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves those who are muqsitin, those who do justice. That's why in a hadith, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he mentioned that إِنَّ الْمُقْسِطِينَ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ عَلَى مَنَابِرِ مِن نُورٍ. The muqsitin, those who are justice. Those people on the day of judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give them a special mimbar of nur, a special pulpit, a special mimbar of nur and light. وَعَنْ يَمِينِ الرَّحْمَنِ عَزَّ وَجَلَ. And this person will be on the right of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And these are those people Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said in the hadith, الَّذِينَ يَعْدِلُونَ فِي حُكْمِهِمْ وَأَهْلِيهِمْ وَمَا وَلُوا. Those are those people who do justice in their matters, in their rulings. وَأَهْلِيهِمْ, and also with their families. وَمَا وَلُوا, and those who have authority over others. Those who have authority over others, and we are deciding a matter, we do it with insaf and justice. These are very, very important things. That's why the famous incident of that lady I mentioned before, of a Makhzumi woman, and she was a very well-known woman amongst the community. Everybody knew her. And as I mentioned, that if somebody is very famous, very well-known, if he commits an act, a sin or a wrong, many a times they try to brush it off, try to get it out of the way without any further damage. So this Makhzumi woman, very well known in the community, once she commit theft, she stealed. And she was very scared that what's going to happen to me if this reach Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that this is going to be a case against me. And we all know that if this reached Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and a person who commits theft, his hands need to be cut off. But she was very scared. I don't feel like going to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I cannot take this case to Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So she gathered all her family members and said that, we need to do something. Who is the best person that can intercede for this woman to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? So they said, it's none of us. But one person gave a suggestion. He said that one person who is very close to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this person can intercede on behalf of this woman to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So they decided on Usama bin Zayd radiallahu anh, that he's the best person who's very close to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Let him go to Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, intercede for this woman. So Usama bin Zayd, he agreed. I will go to Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam and intercede for this woman. And when he went to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam became very angry and upset. The color of his face changed. And he said, are you coming to intercede on behalf of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's punishment, on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's ruling? So Usama bin Zayd radiallahu anhu, he felt very guilty. He said, O Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I'm very sorry. Ask for forgiveness and ask Allah to forgive me. Then Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, on that same evening, he went on the minbar and he said, Ya ayyuhan nas, innama ahlaka min qablikum. O people, there were people before you who were destroyed. They were destroyed, they were halakat. Why? Because when anyone from amongst you commit any act, any sin, and if they were sharif, they were very known and popular, tarakuhu, they will leave him. And if anyone amongst the people of the community have committed any sin, any evil, and they were very weak, ad-da'if, they were not well known, they were not rich, etc., qawma alayhi al-had, they will punish him. And he said, this is all over now. This is the ways of Jahiliyyah. And then he said that he take a qasam, وَالَّذِي نَفْسِي بِيَدِهِ. And then he take a qasam and he said that even لَوْ أَنَّ فَاطِمَةَ بِنْتِ مُحَمَّدٍ سَرِقَتْ قَطَعْتُ يَدَهَا. That even if my daughter, the daughter of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Fatima radiallahu anha, even if she had to commit a theft, she would get her hand cut off. And it so happened that lady, her hand was cut off. She changed her life. She became a better person. She used to come by Aisha radiallahu anha and answer questions, masail. She became a better person. So this was insaf and justice. And as I mentioned, sometimes it happens that because it's close relatives, family, somebody very well known, then we saw that we want to do not insafi, we want to do injustice. That if we do injustice today, then what we going to do, what we going to say in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment? Alaysa Allahu bi ahkamil hakimin. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the best ruler. He will do the best insaf and justice on the day of judgment. Another also category of insaf and justice is among our children. That how we do insaf with our children. Many of us have many kids. We have boys, girls, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 kids, children. That we do insaf amongst our children as well. For example, we give in a gift to one child, we should give all other children. Not that we give one child and we leave out other child. If we can only give one child, don't give none. If we can give all the children, we give all the children at once. The famous incident of An-Nu'man ibn Bashir radiallahu anh, he said that once I went to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam and I said, O Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, my father intended to give me a gift. And then he said that my father himself, he said that if I want this gift to be accepted, I need a witness for this. And I want my mother to be a witness for this by Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So this went to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that, O Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, I am intended to give a gift for my son. And we are here, she's here also to intercede, or to be a, to be a witness for this, the mother. So Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, in different narrations they have different wordings. The Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam asked the father, do you have any other children? So he said yes. So Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, now I'm not ready to be a witness for this. You have other children, then you should give all of them equally. And another version, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, do not make me a witness for something which is injustice. He was not ready to be a witness for this. That we are dealing with our children, we give all of them equally. That is insaf and justice. And there are so many other things that could be mentioned with regards to this topic. But the point I'm mentioning today is that when we hear this verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is commanding, Inna Allah ya'muru bil adl, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is commanded us for justice. That we are deciding any matters, we are making decisions. No matter who it is, it could be a rich, it could be a poor person, it could be a dark skin, it could be a fair skin, it could be a family, it could be not a family. But whatever is Allah's command, we will follow that. And that is insaf and that is justice. Because today we will get away with that insafi, injustice. But tomorrow in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what are we going to say to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What are we going to answer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? This is a sort of dhulm, oppression. To be insafi, injustice, is a category or is a source of dhulm, oppression. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentioned, ittaqi dhulm fa inna dhulma dhulumatun yawm al-qiyamah. That beware of oppression. That oppression and dhulm will be darkness on the day of judgment. It will become a source, a means of darkness for a person on the day of judgment. So when we are hearing these verses on the khutbah on Friday, the first point here, we should ponder and think that what category I am in. Am I truly following this command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Inna Allah ya'muru bil adli wal ihsan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant me and all of us the tawfiq and ability to practice. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us amongst those al-muqsiteen, those who are always justice. Just in every matter. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prevent us from insafi, injustice. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to follow the Quran, the ayahs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That as I mentioned earlier, whatever we are reciting in the Quran, in our salat, we are listening and we are reading, try to understand the meaning of the Quran. In that way, it will be easy for us to follow the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We will get full concentration in our salat. The more khushu we want in our salah is through the understanding of the Quran. What we are reciting, what we are listening to. If we are not understanding what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, we don't understand the message, then it will be hard and difficult for us to even practice on the message. It will be hard for us to build that concentration of khushu in our salah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant all of us the tawfiq and ability to practice. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah.